Hey, what's going on, friends? Today I'm going to show you some replays that I had from a really fun Pokemon Showdown tournament. It was a live tournament with over 200 entries because it was like in the middle of the day. That's when the overuse room is packed. And I got some pretty good games out of it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to save all of my rounds. I only saved like the 3 good ones. But I made it very far, and this is actually not the first round, this is the second round, because the first round was some dude who brought like Mono Poison, and like, look at my team and look at Mono Poison. Like, it was a beatdown, it was destruction. And speaking of beatdowns, this is another fucking beatdown because this guy, he has like this disgusting ass stall that he does not play well at all. Like, just objectively speaking, because I decided to go out into my Tapu Lele, and I figured that because I do pack the Psyshock. This is the stall breaker Tapu Lele, specifically meant to absolutely violate teams like this, disgusting ass teams. I figured Celesteela took a chunk from the Psyshock anyway, and if he decided to try and wish up with either Clef or Chansey, that just gave my Tapu Lele just another switch. So I don't really bother predicting his Celesteela for that reason. I just decided to go right for the Psyshock, and that does some damage to not Celesteela, to Toxapex, and I decided to just Calm Mind up, predicting the switch, as he strangely goes into Sableye. Like, I really don't know why. I figured he'd go for like Mega Fake Out, but no, he just decides to go for Will-O-Wisp, even though it's Prankster and I have Psychic Terrain up, so I just Moonblast and kill that thing. Just go fucking buy. He's going to everything except the Pokemon that he really should be going into, which is Celesteela. Which, I have Focus Blast in this particular battle, but after this, I actually replace Focus Blast on this Tapu Lele with Thunder. It seems like kind of a silly option, but I really like the idea because it actually allows me to do like 50% to especially defensive Celesteela unboosted, which is absolutely nuts. But that's besides the point. Like, this is just the battle that kind of inspired me to do that. But yeah, he's not going into Celesteela. I really don't know why. Now he decides to go into it, and Psyshock does a clean 56%. Jesus, Tapu Lele, calm down. It is modest, because you want as much power against these disgusting ass stall teams. But now I figured that the damage has been done. His hazard, he doesn't have really hazard removal outside of Sableye. That is gone. Chansey is weakened. My job is done. I just go right into my Landorus T and start setting up the rocks. It's really weird. He does have Heavy Slam, but I don't know why he refused to go into this. That has me so confused. So yeah, that's why I say this guy didn't really play his team well. And he also has like Acrobatics. So does that mean he does not have Flamethrower or Leech Seed? Yeah, I don't know. So at this point, Metagross just kind of runs through his team because he's not really Leech Seeding. He has Acrobatics instead for some reason, and even though he has leftovers. So I just decided to go ahead and hit him with the Hammer Arm. I didn't really see much on his team besides maybe Tapu Bulu, which can't touch me too much. Like, I didn't see the negative side of going for Hammer Arm and lowering my speed. And yeah, it's just a beatdown because like this part is kind of boring. Like, he just kind of switches between Tapu Bulu and Toxapex trying to get Regenerator going, but like it doesn't really matter. I mean, Zen Headbutt tears it apart anyway. So, and rocks are up for that matter. So I don't really see the need to predict too much. Like, it's just him kind of switching around, using Protects, and I'm just kind of just like whatever. I get the attack raise from Meteor Mash, which was bound to happen if he was just switching around between Bulu and Toxapex. Like, he thinks he's getting me by me going for Meteor Mash on the Toxapex switch, but it's not really what's happening. So eventually I do win out against his team, and it's just a savage beatdown. He decides to forfeit. So that was the second round. A couple other rounds go by that I didn't end up saving because they weren't really that great of games. Either the opponent brought like a subpar team. Like, I got another like looking like Oras semi-stall. Like, you know that one team, Bisharp, Keldeo, Skarm, Chansey, and Tapu Lele tore him apart. I managed to actually outplay the Bisharp, but unfortunately that's the only reason I would have uploaded it, but I did not save it. So, and then the other team was like some weird mono bug shit that I guess got surprisingly far because he was using Sticky Web plus Volcarona. So we go through those games, and then this is I guess that would make it this, what, like the 5th round? So you can tell that we're pretty far in because a lot of people are joining this game, and this guy has a very cool team. I like it quite a lot. So we're gonna get right into it. As I unfortunately lead off with Landorus T, predicting either him to lead off with Tapu Koko or his own Lando T, which I do have HP Ice for. That's kind of the standard nowadays. But he leads off with Greninja, which kind of destroys my team. Like, his team has a decent matchup against mine because he has Water Spam, and my 2 resists are very offensive, and I'm not comfortable with this Mon. So he actually switches out, maybe thinking that I am Scarf Lando because he sees the Garchomp right there, which I guess is a decent scout on his part. It is a tournament game, so maybe that is worth it. And I just kind of decided to go into my own Greninja, thinking that it's the only thing that resists the shit that Battle Bond Greninja does. Like, I'm particularly afraid of the Battle Bond Greninja with Choice Specs, which it turns out that he is. And let me just close out of Facebook because I am not trying to get notifications in the middle of recording. So it works out for me because looking at his team, I am fairly certain that this is defensive Lando. And knowing that he won't stay in, I decide to go ahead and go for my spikes and start pressuring his entire team, pressuring that Keldeo, which I'm pretty sure is Scarfed. Greninja, which is Specs, his Metagross, and because I do have the Gong Shot, I decide to stay in and significantly weaken a check to my Garchomp, a check to, if it was Assault Vest, then it could have checked my Porygon, etc, etc. So yeah, as he decides to go for knockoff, which is not a big deal because I just go for HP Fire here and knock him right out. And here I kind of make a ballsy play. As he goes into Tapu Koko, I figured that I'm already kind of behind with team matchup, even if I am getting these plays right. So what I decided to do here, and I don't really have like, okay, see the thing is, I really doubted the electric move here. I figured he would A, go for HP Ice because he sees 2 ground types that are important for him to take out, or he would go for U-turn because on his team, U-turn does kind of make sense because it allows him to go into one of his water types and just nuke the incoming ground type. So I predict one of those moves and I decide to stay in to get my second layer of spikes up, which are just going to be pressuring his team more and more. As he goes into the Metagross, and here I just kind of decide to, I could have gone to Landorus, but I would not be getting the Intimidate off because he has clear body before Mega Evolving, and then I would have just had to sack something to like Ice Punch anyway. Maybe I could have switched around and gone into my own Metagross, but I just kind of decided to stay in and go for the Hydro Pump, attempting to weaken it in case he did not have the BP, but it turns out he does. I go into my Garchomp attempting to kind of scare it off. I was hoping that maybe he would go into his own Landorus Therian and I would get to go into Porygon Z, but I guess he just didn't care about getting this damaged, even though, I mean, Earthquake, it is true that Earthquake from Scarf Chomp does not kill this at full. So I go into Porygon Z expecting his own Landers to come out. Like, okay, well, the thing is, I did know that Earthquake would not kill at this range, but I thought maybe he would want to go to Lando T anyway to get up his rocks, to take advantage of that, right? But no, he just stays in, and I'm forced to sack my Porygon Z because now, I mean, it's pretty useless to begin with. So now I go into my Landorus Theory and get the Intimidate off, and I think I just decide to go for Earthquake here. I'm not trying to play around with Metagross because at this point it is a pretty good threat to my team. And if he switches out, he's going to be taking the spikes damage I need for him to die to Earthquake regardless. So now I get up my own rocks. We exchange rocks here, and I just decide to go for the Hidden Power Ice. Unfortunately, I get a crit that's pretty unfortunate, but I would have 2-KO'd him anyway, as he goes for the Hidden Power Ice of his own. I decided to go for U-turn here, just kind of maybe if he wanted to get his Greninja on the HP Ice and get his Ash Greninja form. But I predict that wrong, and I just decide to go into my Metagross because there's no way he's going for anything but HP Ice again if he stayed in, or U-turn, all the same. And I just Mega Evolve and go for the oh no, I just go for the Meteor Mash. And I get the attack raise, which I guess doesn't matter because he is going to go into his Greninja regardless. And at this point, I figure my Landorus T has done its job. It's too low to really take anything from Metagross, and I just decide to sack it. I would have had to sack something regardless, so I may as well sack this, as he is unfortunately going to get to his Ash Greninja form. As now it's pretty much time for the Scarf Garchomp to start going in. As I go into it, and he decides to go into his Keldeo because he figures he can live one Earthquake, because Keldeo is pretty bulky for an offensive Pokemon. And at this point, I think to myself that Tapu Lele is important for getting up the Psychic Terrain, so I don't get swept by the, what do you call it? Water Shuriken. I really didn't want to die to the combination of that and Bullet Punch. So I go into my Metagross, expecting the Scarf Keldeo, and I fortunately lived at Hydro Pump. That's pretty impressive. Metagross is pretty bulky, and because he can't switch out because of the hazards, I just go for the Bullet Punch and finish him off, as he just goes into his own Metagross. I think I went for Hammer Arm or something, I don't remember, but he just goes for VP, wins the speed tie. Again, I don't remember if I went for Bullet Punch of my own, but it doesn't matter because now Garchomp gets to come back in. And okay, I think I think I really underestimated Garchomp's like special bulk, or just bulk in general. So because I assumed that I would die to Water Shuriken after the Bullet Punch damage, but it turns out I ran some calcs, and in order for Specs Timid Greninja in Ash form to, or actually wait, hold on, was he in Ash form in this? Oh no, this is the normal form. Hold up. So he's 145 special attack, right? Okay, now I'm getting shit mixed up. Oh, it's 150. Holy shit, that's some damage. So okay, 3 hits with a high roll actually kills my. Okay, this is Metagross. Garchomp. Oh, you Choice Scarf. Yeah, 3 hits with a high roll does kill my Garchomp. So I could have stayed in and hoped, but I really did not want to risk that. Oh, whoops. Yeah, I could have stayed in because another play, it was kind of a 50-50, kind of not though, because another play he could have made was predict the Tapu Lele. Well, he did predict the Tapu Lele. He didn't go for Water Shuriken this turn, which is pretty smart of him. He went for Hydro Pump. But now what he could have done is gone into his Tapu Koko to get the terrain off the field, and then killed me with Water Shuriken. Granted, he didn't get 2 hits. But then again, if he had gone for Water Shuriken in the play prior, then I would have won regardless. But yeah, he kind of chokes there after making a pretty decent play. He would still have to get 3 hits though, and he would have to get a decent roll. Tapu Koko is not Scarf, and I end up winning the game. So I guess maybe in retrospect, it might have been better for me to stay in here, because there was a good incentive for him to go for the Hydro Pump, but I guess in the end it worked out for me. So I think there was another game after this that I forgot to save, and then this next one is the semifinals of the entire tournament. Again, a PS tour that like over 200 people joined, and I made it this far with a team that had Porygon fucking Z. So this guy actually recognized me from my videos. That's pretty cool. So I decided to go ahead and lead off with my Greninja against, because it was kind of just good against his entire team, especially because I am the Protean Greninja, so the Ferrothorn will drop to HP Fire. I know for a fact this Landorus is 1 defensive because that's his only source of. Okay, no, actually it occurred to me that this could be Scarf Landorus, but I really doubted it. The reason being is that look at his team. His team really appreciates spike support, like Mega Zam and Ash Greninja, Zygarde especially. They really want that spike support, so I kind of convinced myself that Ferrothorn was spikes and not Stealth Rock, although he could have been dual hazard, but I don't think that's a very good set. So I just assumed that he's defensive Landorus, or defensive, yeah, and go for the spikes here, predicting the switch into his Ferrothorn, so I get the spikes there. I could have also gone for HP Fire and predicted that and gotten rid of the threat prematurely, but I did want my spikes anyway, because I do still have a good chance of killing him right here anyway with the HP Fire. He would have to run a significant amount of SPDEF investment in order to have a good chance of avoiding the Oko, but he makes an excellent play by going into his Zygarde to scout for the HP Fire. And because of that, I am basically forced into my own Landorus to kind of keep him from doing anything, because again, I do pack the HP Fire. Maybe I could get my Stealth Rocks up because he has no way of taking away hazards from the field. And he makes a very good play himself of going into his Greninja. But because I have not really shown what this Landorus is, there is still the possibility that I am Scarf and that I am Rock's Garchomp. As you saw with the previous game, the other opponent also assumed this. So, and I wasn't really thinking through this, so I just kind of decided to go into Metagross to just kind of, I guess, sack it. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I go into Metagross here. It works out for him because he ends up going into his Landorus, assuming that I am Scarf, but now he has confirmed that I'm not because I switched out. And thinking that I might pack the Ice Punch, he makes another double into his Ferrothorn as I go into my Landorus T, which again is fine because I can just set up my Stealth Rocks from here and start pressuring his entire team, particularly his Greninja, which absolutely destroys this team. Like, this was just kind of a fun team that I wanted to use with Porygon Z. It's weak to a lot of shit, alright? And from here, I think I just decided to go for the U-turn. The reason I did this is because it 100% got him in range of my... Okay, I made a really stupid play here. So I go for U-turn to get enough chip to 100% Oko with HP Fire. And for some reason, it didn't occur to me that he would go for an attacking move. I thought he would A, go for Spikes, or B, just attempt to Leech Seed me again in case I went into, like, say, I don't know, Garchomp, which may have Fire Blast. I don't know. And I decided to go hard into Greninja, and that shit gets Oko'd by Power Whip. And so that, yeah, that was a misplay. I make a few misplays here, but nevertheless, I still have the upper hand in my mind because I got the hazards up. I do have Hammer Arm on my Metagross to deal with this thing. And in my mind, I also figured that Ferrothorn was one of the only thing he had that I could set up on with Porygon Z. It is indeed the Electrium. It is the no, not the Electrium. Z Conversion Electric. So Gyro Ball, if that was his last move, he hasn't shown Protect. He hasn't gone for it a single time. Like, he could have scouted that instead of going into Zygarde. So that tells me he probably has Gyro Ball over Protect. Can't go for that against Porygon Z because it's Electric type after conversion. And I could just recover up on everything until I killed him with Ice Beam. So I wasn't too torn up about the Greninja loss, even though it does do damage to his team. It got the Spike up, so I was like, you know what, fine. I made a mistake there. I go into my Metagross, and I just kind of go for the obvious play again of going for Hammer Arm because... oh, no, I double out, predicting him to go into his Landorus Therian, but unfortunately I get his Alakazam instead, which I guess was a good play on his part because he predicted the Hammer Arm or wanted to scout for it, and that wouldn't have killed... Actually, would that have killed Alakazam? I'm really starting to wonder that, because that thing is frail as shit. And it's not Focus Sash, it's Mega. But he catches me with the Porygon Z, and I'm forced to kind of switch out into my Metagross, expecting some kind of Psychic move or something. And even if he went for Focus Blast, I can just go for Bullet Punch right after. And unfortunately, he misses this, which really does kind of matter. So I got some hacks there, and I already avoided the Leech Seed, which wasn't as big of a deal, but this definitely was. Oh, whoops. Oh, no. I have to, damn it, I knew this was going to happen at least once, and I have to reset now because I don't want, the glitch where the Pokemon are, on top of each other. So it's the turn with the Alakazam, right? The Porygon's going to be there the entire time, but you know what, so be it. Porygon does nothing in this game, so fuck it. So yeah, this is the turn where he misses the Focus Blast, really unfortunate, and I just decided to go for the Meteor Mash because at this point I can live anything. As he smartly decides to go into Ferrothorn, which, I figure is fine because, again, he's just taking more and more Spikes, more and more Stealth Rocks. His Alakazam is now taking Spikes and Stealth Rocks, which means he dies to the Bullet Punch. Yeah, go for the Hammer Arm there. Nothing to fear. The damage there definitely told me that he was offensive. After Intimidate, Hammer Arm it's not supposed to do 17% to a defensive Landorus. So I go hard into my own Landorus, which I would have done regardless. And as he goes for Stealth Rocks, and he decides to try and SD up on me. But because he is offensive, he ends up not living the Hidden Power Ice, which I'm still kind of convinced it's a roll, but even if he had lived with a Sliver, I am Rocky Helmet on this particular Landorus, so he would have just died anyway as soon as he went for an attack. So he goes down there. unless it was like the Continental Crush, like Stone Edge doesn't trigger Rocky Helmet, but still, doesn't matter. I had Metagross with Bullet Punch, I had Scarf Garchomp, which in my mind right now, Scarf Garchomp is the win condition. He decides to go into Greninja. I really don't have a switch in, like honestly. This thing has mostly done its job. Yes, Zygarde is still more or less healthy, but at this point I'm more comfortable with the idea of that because I do have all my hazards up, so I can take care of that with either Tapu Lele or, well, I guess not Tapu Lele because it's modest, or, well, Metagross basically, or my own Garchomp. So I decide to go down there, he gets his Ash form, and now it's time to start firing off Earthquakes with my Garchomp. Ferrothorn definitely dies to 2 after the hazards because he would be at around like 50%, and he doesn't have Protect, so I just go into the Garchomp, and it's time to start firing off Earthquakes. He decides to sack his Zygarde, well, not really sack, because he lives the Earthquake because Zygarde is tanky as shit. But then I think another play that could have been more optimal here was going out into Metagross because, as you can see here, he does quite a bit of damage with the extreme speed. And at this point, I am figuring out that Gengar is Scarf. It makes a lot of sense on his team. And Garchomp is the only thing keeping... well, I guess Garchomp and Metagross are the only things keeping Gengar from just spamming Sludge Wave and winning the game. So in retrospect, maybe I should have avoided the extreme speed damage on this Garchomp, especially because I didn't know that... well, it didn't matter because I would have switched into Metagross and gone for Bullet Punch. But yeah, what I'm trying to say here is that at this point, Gengar can't really spam Shadow Ball because then it basically gives Porygon Z a free conversion, and then I go on to sweep his team, more or less, depending on how many recovers I can get off. So here he goes into Ash Greninja, again at 60%. There is a chance that I live, even with 3 hits. Like, he has to get a really high roll in order for that to kill. But again, I was kind of underestimating Garchomp's bulk, and I didn't want to risk it anyway. Like, it just would have come down to luck, and I wouldn't have liked that. So I decided to go into my Tapu Lele to get up the Psychic Terrain. At this point, it was really my only resort to keep this Greninja from going for Water Shuriken, and at this point, I got off a free attack on his team with Psyshock, but instead, I believe I doubled right back out into my Metagross to finally take out this Ferrothorn. And, okay, this play, I'm torn about this. It's not really a play, but I missed the Hammer Arm, and because of that, it definitely would have killed, because it kills the next turn. He decides to get up a Spike, which really does kind of matter in the following turns, and I will explain why. Even though I do still have the upper hand, I finally get rid of Ferrothorn, and in comes in his Alakazam. And, okay, I do have one more turn of Psychic Terrain remaining, but the thing is, I could have stalled it out and sacked something like maybe Porygon Z or Tapu Lele of my own, and then attempted to sweep him with Bullet Punch. The problem is that he got the Spike up. If it was just Stealth Rocks, I maybe would have been more confident in Metagross living the Ash Greninja's Water Shuriken, and even then, if he gets 4 hits, I can die. If he gets 5, I definitely die. So I didn't really want to leave it to that. And I commit to a series of plays that will allow me to win, 92% of the time. You'll see what I mean. So basically, I decided to just sack my Metagross here. I actually didn't even think Shadow Ball would kill. I was pretty surprised. Alakazam is hella strong. But now I can go right back out into the win condition, which is my Garchomp, which is, yeah, it's kind of a bad thing there too, because now I definitely died to Water Shuriken thanks to the spikes, and it just kind of sets me up. Like, I can't switch out now because then Gengar wins if I switch out. So I actually cannot do that now because he got off that spike, which is really unfortunate. But still, like, I still have the upper hand here because now Greninja switches in on all those hazards. Can't switch out because if it comes back in, it dies. So I commit to these series of plays. He comes back in, and I figure that staying in is a win-win. If he decides to double out into Gengar, trying to catch my Tapu Lele, I win. If he goes for Dark Pulse, trying to catch my Tapu Lele, I win. And if he goes for the Water Shuriken, like I believe he did, the crit didn't really matter. He actually could. It's kind of funny. He crit twice in a row with those. It didn't really matter. So I go into my Tapu Lele, and technically he could have switched into Gengar to win the game here, but I really didn't think he was gonna do it. I think the first thing on his mind right now is that Greninja dies to hazards upon the next switching, and I could also have gone for the Psyshock here until he switched out. So it was kind of a guessing game there, but at the same time, I also could not waste too much time. If I was going to switch out, it had to be now. Another play I was thinking about is just Calm Minding up, but I was really not confident about that because I would have had to Calm Mind up several times over a series of turns. And maybe in retrospect that was a good idea, but also he could have gone into Gengar and gone for the trick, and then that was it. Oh no, that wouldn't have worked. But nah, I wasn't confident in the Calm Mind plays because I was getting pretty low and I was worried that Sludge Wave would just kill me anyway. So I decided to go hard into Porygon Z. He's locked into Water Shuriken, and at this point I think I won because I go for the Z conversion. Sludge Wave does not kill me. I calced it. If he even is Scarf, which it turns out to be, so his only chance of winning is a crit. And I mean, you know how it is at this point. Of course he got it. Of course. I would have lived and killed him with the Thunderbolt easily, and then Greninja died to hazards. So, even if I made misplays, I still committed at the end to win the game, and it seemed to have worked out, and of course, I get crit. That's just how it is sometimes. So, as you can see, the chat was like, end me. It's like, I even mentioned that the only way he can win is crit. And yeah, he got it, so I basically just, I just let him knock my last Pokemon out to be a good sport, and that was the that was the semifinals. I was a little salty only because a lot of people participated, and it would have been very cool to actually win the entire thing at this point. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the battles that I ended up saving, and I will see you guys next time.